A digital world where treasures hide. Pure Hustle Podcast, our guide. We learn to hustle, flip items with care. eBay's our playground, we're going somewhere. From thrifted gems to vintage gold, we turn the old into something bold. Finding value where others can't see. Pure Hustle Podcast teaches us. Flipping dreams, we're on the rise. Pure Hustle Podcast, our secret prize. eBay warriors will make a name, turning junk into fortune and gain. Yeah. Turning junk into fortune and gain.
Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're here for another Monday live mini-sode.
Yes, we love our Monday lives. Man, they have been a ton of fun. It's been great interacting with people in the comments. And I just want to share really quick. So we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And if you're on Facebook or YouTube, we're going to be able to get your comments. We see them live. We're able to interact with them. If you're over on Instagram, you're more than welcome to stay there and watch and comment there. But we're not going to be able to see those comments as easily or interact with them. So if you want to join the chat, if you want to be live with us, come on over to YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button so that we can interact with you. And man, today we're going to be talking about something interesting, which is advice. Man, there is so much advice out there, and sometimes it's difficult to determine what's good advice, what's bad advice. Should I be listening to advice? So today we're going to be talking about that, and and we'd love to hear too from some of the people in the comments, like maybe some of the sources of advice that you guys find useful, maybe some pieces of advice you want to share with others, because that is sometimes some of the best that we have.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this because I see the comments on people's posts, on our own posts, right? I watch YouTube videos all the time. I listen to reselling podcasts. And, sometimes you can get some really bad advice, right? And sometimes you get some really good advice. And I wanted to make this a really interactive episode. I'd love for people in the comments to tell us, like, who they listen to. Like, if they're full-time, do they actually listen to part-time sellers? If their part-time is full-time relevant to them? Do they find that like smaller YouTube channels are better than the larger YouTube channels? Like are the YouTube channels that are large like out of touch now because their content is just to get clicks on their videos? Is eBay even reliable, right? And I'll talk about that first here in a little bit. What about those individuals that they're making a lot of sales, but a lot of it is just because they're on YouTube and they have a huge following. Like I wonder about all this because I'm going to share this in length on the longer podcast that we drop on Wednesday, because let's go to eBay first. Okay. And so somebody says I might be biased. It's true. It's true because, people listen to us, and I hope that people listen to us. Yeah, we do give advice. Yes, we do share things, but we're more documenting. Like, I don't find that we are the answers to everything. Like, we're not the ones that, people should be like, oh, if I want to go 6-7 figures, like I'm gonna listen to yours podcast. Now, not to say that I haven't been above 6 figures multiple times. It's not that I'm not a 6-figure seller. I'm not a 7-figure seller, that's for sure. But I want people to kind of just let us know what they listen to. And so give you an example of something that I thought was going to be a win all around was, I had gone to an eBay event and eBay had told me like, hey, this is what you should do with your promoted listings. You should reduce how much you're spending and at the same time, you'll be able to keep your money and your sales will keep going. And guess what? It failed. it did not work. It made things actually worse. I feel like I lost out on a lot of sales. And this was the eBay telling me this. Now, why do I think that happened? Right? I think that happened because this individual is not a full-time reseller like I am. Right? They don't know how much money I need to make. They don't know everything that I'm listing all the time. They don't know everything that I'm sourcing. They just know the data that's in front of them. And to the data is like, hey, you are, losing money on ads. But for me, I'd rather lose a little bit more money to make more money. Right. So I find that to be pretty important.
Yeah, and that's good. And that's one of the things too is, I mean, I've worked at a corporation before. I'm in education now, so it's a little bit different. But a lot of times, the people who they're presenting things, they have some they get some directive from the higher ups of like, hey, here's a new program we're rolling out. Make sure we're really focusing on this aspect. You could tell the resellers to do this. So that's probably what's happening with eBay is they're being told like, hey, do this with promoted listings, or this won't hurt your store. This will help your store. But again, unless it's been something that's been done for a long time and it's a sales rep, because like when I worked at a call center, we had 3 different tiers of, at first they were dispatchers, but then they almost became like kind of call center people as well. They handle different level things, and we purposely put like our most qualified dispatchers, our most qualified representatives in the tier 3 section. And so those are the ones that dealt with like the most extreme or unique circumstances, and they had the most experience with the company. But even between, you could have 3 people sitting right next to each other and they might all handle a call differently. They might all have different advice. Well, I've seen this work and so yeah, when you get advice from somebody at eBay, unless it's like a clear cut, like here's the new process and here's how it's going to affect things, one person's experience isn't going to necessarily be everybody else's experience. And so, yeah, somebody could tell you, yeah, do this with your promoted listings, or do this, or this is what is going to happen when you do this. But the person next to them, or somebody like you, a reseller who's actually experiencing the consequences, might have a very different outcome from what they're expecting. So yeah, you got to take those things with a grain of salt, even when it comes from the source itself.
Yeah, I do find that interesting. Like I remember the big controversy, I think it was last year, when somebody on the eBay for Business podcast says feedback doesn't matter, right? You get a negative, it's not that big of a deal, right? But at the same time, eBay has also said it is a big deal when it comes to the algorithm, right? So again, it's a testimony of like, I don't know if everybody at eBay actually is a reseller, so they don't actually know what affects them. Now, let's take a look at some of the comments here. Here's from M. It says, as a part-time seller, I find the most value in content from other part-time sellers. I'll watch content from full-time sellers, but it's sometimes less relevant. And I agree with that. I find, for me, I love hearing from full-time resellers, but from part-time, right? If somebody is telling me, this is how much I'm looking to make a day and so on, I'm like, that's great, but I need to make a lot more than that, right? So what are you doing to do that? Now, I agree. Somebody else here, let's go to Christine here. Scavenger Life in the old days. Yes, love Scavenger Life. Sometimes I'll catch their old episodes, even though they're not around anymore, just because I like listening to some advice to give because it's still relevant today. It says, I only watch the learn sourcing videos where they show the comps on the screen, do the research for you. I also try to catch people saying what trends are falling off. And I think that's really important. As somebody that's been in reselling for over 10 years, I find that I'm getting older in the sense that like I'm still trying to source the same things I was maybe sourcing years ago. And it's nice to see fresh, new resellers out there going, hey, this is what's selling for me, right? This has great sell-through rate. And when they show the comps is even better, because then that item is something you should look out for. So I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I think that's very valuable. Some of the hard ones to watch are the ones this is my own like kind of way of seeing is the one that try to show you tricks. I'm not a fan of the tricks. I'm not a fan of the YouTube influencers that are like, hey, if the end and so similar, like that was a big thing. Or if you use these keywords, right? Or if you organize your words in this style, or if, you list 5 items a day, or to me, none of those have been foolproof, right? There's no exact equation.
Yeah. I mean, it is nice though. It's nice to be able to find, especially if you're new, you're starting out, or there's something new. Like think about some of the videos we've done where, here's an interesting like hack that might help you out. use the little lock button when you do sold when you're looking up comps. That way you're not constantly scrolling down and pressing sold. So there are definitely tips and tricks that you can get. But the hard part is, I mean, we all understand how social media works, and things have to be kind of clickbaity. Things need to get that attention. And if you build your platform on like, I'm going to give you the 5 hacks that's going to change your life, well, after the 300th hack that you've given, you're either repeating the same things or you're really stretching. And so you got to kind of be a little bit choosy when it comes to that kind of stuff. I definitely think some of it can be helpful. But yeah, you got to be careful to implement some of these things slowly, not necessarily implement them all at once too, even with the end and sell similar. I've had great success with that. And it was trial and error through a lot of people to kind of realize, okay, this is successful potentially to do with a handful of items at a time. Don't completely crush your store and do all of it at once. It's also really helpful if you're kind of just doing your stagnant items and not the items that are, still have some like activity on them. And so over time, people kind of have worked out the best practice on that, and that information gets out. But I would say with anything that comes out from, any YouTuber or Instagram or even from eBay, is to implement those types of tips and tricks and hacks at a small scale. Like, all right, I'm going to try it on these 10 items and see if there's any difference. Maybe the next 20 items I list, I'm going to try using my keywords like they suggested, see if there's a difference in my sales. And then you can kind of get that anecdotal evidence, but you're not doing so much that you're going to completely crush your store, because the algorithm doesn't like too drastic of changes either. So a lot of times people following the tips and tricks advice that they get from, other YouTubers or Instagram or social media influencers, is they're constantly making drastic changes to their store, and then they're wondering why nothing ever happens. I changed all of my listings to this percentage. I changed all my listings to this. I deleted all these pictures and did that. Sometimes that can work, but sometimes instead of taking that shotgun approach and trying everything you could possibly try all at one time, be a little bit more narrow and focused when you're doing that.
No, I agree. And again, a couple of other things I want people to think about is, why are you listening to certain people, right? Why are you watching, right? Perspective matters. I like what that's all Pug 3 here says. I listen to Pure Hustle, ADHD. I appreciate that. ADHD, Commonwealth Picker, Tech and Sports, each different styles, mostly for enjoyment more than knowledge. And I agree with that. Like, I listen to Tech and Sports. I will never have the drive that Tech and Sports has. That's just not in me. Like, I cannot be that 4 a.m. guy and having 250 listings by like 9 a.m. or whatever he does. He is phenomenal. He is next level. It's the reason why he's the #1 clothing seller on eBay. But I do enjoy watching him, go out to the flea market, seeing what he picks up, looking at a store. Like, it's enjoyment for me, right? I'm not necessarily getting tips for him. But I am, enjoying what, ADHD Dave, I like seeing his sourcing videos, right? He gets some incredible finds. So you got to find perspective. So definitely choose what you're listening to and why, right? Because if you're at a place right now that you need, somebody definitely guiding you, take a look at people that are full-time. So for example, Consignment Chats here, appreciate all the positive comments. Says, yep, Sing in Orlando, check out their stores and see if you want to emulate before you take their advice. And I think that is huge. We don't share our stores publicly, but you can find them really easily if you just go on our social media and just use the keywords for the items that we have. You'll find their store, you'll find our pictures. But I do that all the time, right? So if you're a full-time reseller and somebody comes into your comments or somewhere and they just start saying, well, you could have made another $10 on this item, or you're leaving money on the table. Yep. What I do is when people leave those comments, I go and see their store and I go, oh, this person only sells like, 1 or 2 items a day. Well, yeah, they obviously are part-time, so they have the time to wait for this $10. Yeah. I'm full-time. I don't have that time. Like, I need to get stuff moving and I need that cash in hand.
Yeah. I mean, that's one way of looking at it too, is okay, maybe their style is different, but even the things they sell, that could be part of it too. Is I think you often are picking apart like whether they're full-time or part-time, and there's definitely a difference there. But even the items they're selling is going to make a difference. Like, hey, these people sell electronics, so these tips they're giving might work there. Or you know, a lot of the big YouTubers are going to be like shoe sellers or certain clothing. And if you're just not in that niche, some of the advice they give is going to transfer and it's going to be applicable to various categories, but not all of it will be. So yeah, you got to do that. And going back to that idea of check out their store first. There's kind of an ongoing meme on the internet for certain corners of the internet where, you know, if fitness is an example, or even certain like political stuff, where people will make a comment and the response is post physique, which is basically like, show me a picture of like, before you start giving me advice on how to lose weight or how to do this or how to be more healthy in my family life, like, put your money where your mouth is. I want to see what you look like, right? Like you need to be able to show that you've got the six pack before I'm taking advice from you. And so that's kind of just it's almost the same thing. Post physique is yeah. Well, let's see what their store is. Let's see what they're actually doing. Cause yeah, it's easy to say like, hey, look at this item I picked up at Goodwill bins and you can walk into any Ross and make $1 million. But then you look at their store and they're clearing like $10,000 a year. Okay. Well, that post physique is not necessarily going to be, you know, what you're trying to make your store look like.
All right, so I want to address a comment here just because I want people to know. So LJ Ruth says, what's the reasoning behind not sharing your store on your profile? That's the first thing I look at when I look at other sellers' social media. If they don't list it, I'll go on a dive and find it. Okay, and I appreciate that. So the reason we don't share it is because it looks really bad on eBay if you have a lot of clicks, a lot of impressions, a lot of watchers, and your item's not selling. What it does, it'll drag your whole store down. So for example, I've had items like I made a YouTube video, right? And I sourced something and I have like, I don't know, 40, 50 watchers. And it's like that for an entire year. And it'll never sell. And the reason it'll never sell is because it'll never end up on the first page, because obviously the algorithm is being told, yeah, a lot of people are watching this, but the price maybe is too high for whatever reason. People aren't wanting to buy it. And so that's why we don't sell it. Another one is trolls. We've had trolls before. I've had people buy from me and cause me problems. Not as much as other people on YouTube. We're not large enough to have that kind of caliber of people coming after us, but it does happen. It does happen. So
somebody else here said, yes, Mike, watching what sold videos is so much more useful than watching hauls. Yeah. And again, that goes back to that idea I've said before. A lot of times, again, going back to big resellers. So Orlando and I, if we get, 1,000 views on a YouTube, which a lot of our YouTubes don't even reach that, we might be at 500, but if we got like a decent YouTube video that's hitting over 1,000 views and it's like, hey, we made like $20 on this YouTube video that, this, what sold to this haul that we did, that's not enough really for the time that we put into it to make it worthwhile. A lot of times we make even less than that on a video. But if you just did that math of, I don't know, just say $20 for 1,000 views, and then you look at some of these videos that they're making 20,000 views pretty regularly. So they're making $300-$400 to make a video. That can make it changes things, right? Like if you go to a garage sales and like I'm going to make $500 on the YouTube video I make for the stuff I pick up today, you can be a little bit more willy-nilly about, look at all this stuff that I bought at these prices, knowing that half that stuff probably won't actually sell for the prices you're hoping for, but it doesn't matter because the point was to make the content. You're basically, the content is paying for the stuff you're sourcing, and that's how you're making your money. Not that all resellers are doing that, but that is a way that some of them are doing that. But if you see what's actually selling, you're getting a much better picture of what's moving in the market, what's valuable, because you can pick up 100 items, but maybe only 5 or 10 of those items are actually useful.
Yeah, so I do want to bring some kind of closure to all of this, right? We don't have to say, don't listen to this, don't listen to that. Listen. To me, I would say listen to people. You get, depending on what you're listening for, right? If you're finding someone to just have in the background and entertain you, then find those individuals, right? If you're looking to scale your business, you're trying to improve your reselling, I would definitely encourage you to take a look at what their life consists of. What I mean by that is, like, are they married? Do they have kids? Are they full-time? Are they part-time? Like, all those things play a definite role, right? For me, watching somebody who's 23 years old going to the bins 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, probably is the only way it's going to really help me is when I see what they sold. But it's not going to be something that's going to definitely help me because there's no way I can keep up with that schedule, right? And so I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying, just be aware that you could be watching someone and you can get really down, go, why can't I be like this person? Why can't I sell like this person? But your certain place in life at this moment doesn't allow you to do that. So find those that are similar in the way that they're reselling, who are being successful and kind of follow down that path.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
It does. Let me mention a comment here on the Instagram. It's a little, I can't post over there right now, but somebody asks, they said, that makes sense why you aren't shared. But if you're on YouTube teaching reselling, got to see the store and see if you actually know what you're doing. So I appreciate that. I know it sounds like we're talking out of both sides of our mouth here, saying,
We are.
hey, you should only watch, or pay attention to advice if you can kind of see that they know what they're talking about. And yet we don't necessarily publicly share our stores. But like Orlando said, if you look at our Instagram, if you're over there right now, we've got, thousands of posts at this point of items we picked up, sold comps. It's all there. Like the receipts are there of the work we've done. I think we're on year 7 of the podcast. We've got plenty of receipts on the podcast as far as items that have sold, what we sold, how much we made on it. And we're very real. Like sometimes we make money, sometimes we lose money. But the idea here isn't that, we're hiding anything. Like you can watch our Insta, you can watch what we do, and you can see the items we're buying and selling for sure.
Yeah, and again, it's funny. Somebody brought up this right here. A lot of resellers post haul videos after they have the stuff listed, hoping someone will want to buy something in the video. And Mike and I don't do that. Like whenever I show something that's sold, sometimes people don't even know that I sourced it. Like I just keep it a surprise because I don't want to get all about like, oh, I can sell it for this much, and then I never sell it. Like I want people to see something that actually happened. So one example is that Nintendo hot seat that I sold. It was this motion control seat that was made in the 90s. You can see on our Instagram, I think it was a month or two ago, that I picked up for, I think like $8-9 at Goodwill, and I sold it for $700 something. Now, when I initially picked up, I shared it in the Discord. I'm like, I think this is really valuable, but let's wait and see. Right? I wasn't looking for anybody in the Discord to pay. I could have showed it on Instagram, but I was like, I don't know. I want to see if this is really something that people want. And sure enough, I never even shared about it till after the fact. And yeah, somebody paid $700 something for it. So yeah, there's many options out there, but definitely choose ones that are gonna, 1, keep you entertained if that's what you're looking for. 2, help you scale based that you're in the same place in life as they are, maybe the same capital, maybe the same situation. Sometimes geography is important, right? I know someone right now that I watch over there in Arizona at the bins, and every day they're killing it. But if I go to the bins here, that's never going to happen. And I've been to the bins multiple times. So appreciate all of you. You guys have so many nice comments on here. I just thank you, all of you. And I want to make this a full podcast, but we got to keep this as a mini-sode. So if you want to watch our full podcast, keep us out. Kick us out. No, don't kick us out. Tune in on Wednesday for our long form podcast. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And with that being said, make sure to be real,
Be relevant,
and be reselling late.
Peace.
Sun's out, it's a brand new day. With our eyes on the prize, we're on our way. Hitting garage sales before the crowd, searching for treasures, making us proud. Through the aisles of thrift stores we roam, finding pieces of history, bringing them home. From old books to watches, we see their worth, turning dust into gold for all it's worth. With a